So this is the making of Doctor Who meets Take On Me part 3. This is where I'm actually going to show you how I created a shot from scratch. The particular shot that I've chosen, it could have been any of them, but I chose this shot from Take On Me. I'll show you the final frame. It's this particular frame here. Because it involves a lot of different techniques which I found quite useful throughout the video, hopefully it'll be more interesting one to watch than some other frames. For this particular shot of Matt Smith's Doctor running down a corridor in Skaro, the original shot I'm using is this one here, which is from the 11th hour. I chose it purely because it had the right action and the right energy from Matt Smith. As you can see, I've flipped the shot. This is using Sony Vegas Pro 10. I flipped the shot to get him facing the right way because it was important for continuity that he's looking at the Dalek, which is on the right side of the screen to his left. I've cropped him out of it. I didn't need to do a lot of cropping because the background and everything will be drawn in by me, so it wasn't too important for it to be a perfect crop. And in the background I've got this shot from The Witch's Familiar of a Dalek going down a corridor in Skaro. I could have used any shot of a corridor, I could have created one from scratch, but this is the one that I used, just a stock image, which I kept in this folder here. I've separated it all out into individual pieces, but I keep it in this folder here, which I named the Raggedy Man Run because it's based on that particular shot from the Raggedy Man in the 11th hour. Frame 58 this is, and I'll show you how I animated it. This is a program called Jask Paint Shop Pro. You could use any program at all that has a drawing tool or the amalgamation of tools that I'm going to be showing you. So I'll import this image in here, and this is what you get. I am doing this from scratch. This isn't the original one that you'll find in the video. If I show you the comparison, this is what the shot is originally, and this is what I drew. It does look quite rough at that stage. Oh no, that's the frame. It does look quite rough, but that is all part of the process. And I'll show you roughly how I created this frame here, but I am drawing it from scratch in this case. So this is your background plate. This is going to be what I'm basing it on. I create a layer here. This is your piece of paper, if you like. If you think about it as basically tracing a drawing, this is your piece of paper. I'm going to turn the visibility off. That turns it into essentially a piece of tracing paper, if you like. And this layer here is the drawing. So you can see I'll be drawing on here, and then I'll click that, and it becomes the piece of paper. Essentially, I'm digitally creating the makings of how Take On Me was done. I could start drawing anywhere on this frame. I'll probably start with the costume because that's going to be the most difficult part. On this particular shot, I would have liked to have done everything as close to how it's going to be drawn in its entirety in the frame, but on this particular case I didn't have the shot of him wearing the tweed jacket, so for continuity I had to imagine that. I could again have had that put into the original frame for me, but I didn't feel the need. I thought I can probably improvise a rough impression of that, which one I'm going to show you first. So if we look at the ending of the frame, rough depiction of what a jacket will look. It's got straight lines there, got the lapels. If you went through the whole video frame by frame, you would probably notice that this is different in each frame, but that adds to the overall look of the animation. Because if you look at the original Take On Me, it is never perfect, and just doing things a little bit improvised adds to that effect, as I'll go into later. It's just drawing the lapels of a tweed jacket here. You can roughly use the shirt as a guide, which I did many times. just to show you roughly how things are going to look. That's the rough idea. There's the lapel of his shirt, and then just put a thing in for a little bit of button there. And that is roughly a close approximation to his Series 5 costume. If you wanted to, you could add some details here for the sewing, what have you. You could colour in the bow tie, but I'm not going to overcomplicate things. I'll do his head now. For the 11th Doctor, I did find it quite difficult, actually. A lot of Doctors, I had quite a lot of meat I could use. David Tennant, I found, had quite an expressive face, particularly John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton. They were very expressive, cartoonistic, almost caricatured expressions that I could grab hold of a lot. But with Matt Smith, I struggled because he's quite a bony structure, and quite an exaggerated structure, if you like. The large nose, the large cheekbones, and I found if I accentuated those bits in the wrong ways, it just sort of ended up looking like a skeleton. But you don't have to be too neat with this. As you can see, I'm just putting in the details lightly. You don't really have to follow too much of a map. And I found when I did my research on Take On Me, I looked through frame by frame, and I found that when you actually look at it, a lot of the frames are only half drawn. There's not a whole lot of material there. But if, for example, one frame you do a really detailed bit of the face, and then another one you do it a bit slapdash and you put more detail into a costume or into shading or whatever, when you play it at 24 frames or 12 frames, it builds an image of your mind of it being complete. So it doesn't really have to be a work of art each time. When you play all the frames one after another, your brain completes it. And also, in a way, that lack of completion adds to the overall image. It gives it a style. So if for a couple of frames I couldn't do the cheekbones properly, or I couldn't even get it to look like Matt Smith very well, all I had to do is put more detail into another area. I might shade it better, or what have you. And overall, it actually does make it look more like Take On Me, because that's the style they adopted anyway. So I'm not too concerned about making it look good. Put some thin eyebrows on there, and I'll just zoom out just to see where I'm at the minute. And I'm pretty happy with that. It looks pretty decent. Ideally, I would like a more shocked expression on there. I want to convey the emotion that he's feeling. So it's a bit of a surprise, a bit of trepidation. If not in the original shot, at least in the context of the scene that I'm creating. So I might put a bit more of an open mouth there. A little bit more stress in the eyes, perhaps. And you're just trying to put across that expression. Sometimes, even if you draw it perfectly to how it's in the frame, sometimes the emotion doesn't come across because the way you're drawing it doesn't pick up the actual emotion. So sometimes you have to add things that aren't there. That's a little bit more surprise now. That's okay. At this point I might start drawing the corridor just so we've got a bit of context. This is quite simple because the corridor is a very, very simple layout, so just simply following these lines. If I was doing something like the TARDIS, which I have previously, I would put more detail in, but in this one it's literally just curved lines, which is nice. And I'll put some on here on the edge of the frame which was cropped out of the original, but just to add a bit of depth in there. Could do this at the start or the end of the video, but I like to focus on the Doctor first sometimes. There's no real rules, and I mean I've started this video more or less from scratch, so I've basically just made up the video myself. But if you want to make it as close to Take On Me as possible, these are the sort of methods that I've learnt. If you're doing this yourself, you could make it your own ideas. I might want to put some shading into the walls here just to give it a bit of depth, perhaps. Let's have another look at that. That's looking nice. And compare it to the final frame. That's not looking bad at all. In fact, mine probably more detailed now. Yeah, that's looking quite good. I think I'll put another bit of something in there just to give it a bit more life on the right hand side. And something else I'll show you now is the scratches on the video, which I don't think I really put into this shot a lot. Just let me show you here. For example, this particular frame has more detail in it. I've shaded in the bow tie a little bit. I've shaded in the creases on the jacket. And you can see as I go through these, the different levels of detail, the different ways. I've got a bit of a cartoony movement on the head. That one's got more detail in the background, so you can see how each frame changes the style. And I just want to put a little bit of a Take On Me squiggle in this one. When you watch the video Take On Me, you'll notice there's always these scratch marks as if the artist has scribbled over it with a pencil. And I put these in throughout the video, just maybe every third frame, every fifth frame, depending on how busy the frame is. This frame's quite busy already, so it really doesn't need it, but just put a little scratch in there, a little scribble, and that just tells you like you're watching a Take On Me story. That's sort of the signature of Take On Me. But I've done this on a transparent layer, so I can just remove it. And yeah, that will be frame 59 of the Raggedy Run. And now I'll show you how that frame works in the entire video as a whole. And yeah, that will be another 58 of those to create the one shot, which at 60 frames would probably be around 2.5 seconds, something like that. And over the course of 3 minutes, you're looking at 2,500 frames, and there is Take On Me done. So I hope you enjoyed watching. If you haven't already, then watch Doctor Who Take On Me. I'll put a link in the description. And if you have already, why not go back and watch it again? That'd be good. I appreciate all of you watching this video, and I will see you next time.
Shine.